What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Book is entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father at Amazon, Kindle and Create Space. A link will be in the description box below. As usual, go get it. This video is entitled In Competition with Your Bloodline. There's a thing, we all, for the most part, know our family. We might not know our full family's lineage. But we know where probably we know our parents, for the most part. We know our grandparents and probably our great-grandparents, right? And for the most part, we know their stories. So, and and I can go out to extended family. But one thing that seems to be missing, and there's this up and down thing, is there's a healthy competition within the bloodline, because people before us did enough to are making sure that you are on a better level than the way they started when they were your age. And what winds up happening is, I see that we're dealing with adults who are dealing with the issues of if you won or lost in comparison to the ancestors in your bloodline. Like my granddad was, my great-grandfather wound up getting in the military. My granddad worked and then got in the military. So we're talking about guys from generations where, you dropped out of school 2nd, 5th grade to help out take care of the family. And then I listen to my parents' childhood, and I compare my parents' childhood with my grandparents' childhood, and you can say that their childhood was better. Like, one of the things, and there were issues in all of each generation. Each generation has its own issues. But the thing about it was, when it came to where were we financially, whether they start financially, everybody started on a better level. Where were they in a community sense? The community sense, I would say, went downhill because, from the conversations that I've had, people lived in basically all black communities, and crime wasn't an issue because you could leave your doors unlocked and people had people didn't go in people's houses stealing. Everybody was cool. Actually, people helped out each other. You go knock on somebody's door, and there was a communal aspect. And I think even maybe probably into the 80s is when it started going downhill, where the communal aspect started dwindling, because there were still codes of conduct. So I would say, comparing generations, the community sense has lost to previous bloodlines, right? Spirituality, it's an up and down thing, as you can see, because some people are pimping spirituality or pimping religion and walking away from spirituality, and people are getting into spirituality and walking away from religion. So it's kind of influx. I guess history is going to let you know who's on the right side of history with that. But more so, effort. Effort is where I see the most trying issues. And what I mean by that is this. I've seen the the happiness and pride of a younger generation knowing that they made the most out of the opportunities that the older generation provided for them. And I've seen the confidence boost in that, and I've seen the camaraderie in that. And I've also seen the depression and the despair of a generation knowing that they dropped the ball. And there's a big problem, because what you're dealing with is you're dealing with people who are like, not my children are starting from a worse position than I started out with, because you have a certain demographic of people who basically were entitled and spoiled because they were maybe the first generation who didn't have to deal with as much adversity. So instead of taking the ball and running with it, they just effed it off. I'm living better than my parents living because my parents are providing for me. Like when people talk about being hitched to a baby boomer, right? Why am I going to leave this house? They got a big house. Why do I have to buy a car? They got 3 or 4. Why do I don't really have to start my own business or go to school or get a job or have a career, because I could just chill with them all the time. And then they get old and die and everything falls apart. And if they have children along the way, guess what? Guess who's taking care of the kids? The grandparents. See, that's the thing. If you got to, that's a part of the problem. And, you see the competition where people are fighting to hold on to failure because, and we don't talk about this a lot of times. Some of this competition, especially the part I'm talking about right now, fighting to hold on to failure. People are using their kids as pawns and props because they know these people are going to have to take care of me, if they take care of the kid. This is why, I get uneasy when and I'm using women as single mothers as a reference. When people say, oh, we going to do stuff, but, we ain't doing it for the mothers, and the mothers, what about the kids? Let's be honest. You saying what about the kids because you're eating off your kids, But the thing about that is, compared to other generations of single mothers, you're a failure. You didn't take the ball that they had and ran with it. You just, you took the easy way out. Same thing that I was saying about being hitched to these baby boomers. Like, you have so many people. It's the a video I made earlier about parents have become pimps. You can tell it's reversed because parents are wanting their kids to bail them out of life. That wasn't the case prior. The case was your parents sacrificed to put you in the best position to be in a better position in life. Part of the story that we're hearing right now, with a lot of people are upset about black men not building or whatever. Somehow people forget that what was the rhetoric 10, 20, 30 years ago. I need you to go to school, get a good education, try to be a lawyer. I was about to say a liar. That's the underlying stereotype of lawyers. A lawyer, a doctor, an engineer. They used to say that. People chose not to do that, right? Some people chose to do that. Some people chose not to do that. Maybe one day you could start a business, right? And school was definitely a whole lot cheaper 30 years ago, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. But now you're seeing people on the back end of that like, well, you haven't done anything. Well, you're talking about, people who were given a game plan by people older than them who thought this game plan would work. I think we're not admitting that the game plan is outdated, you know, because of technology and the change in society. But from when we got the game plan, it made sense at that time. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because, you know, it, a lot of us, you know, some of us have kids. Like I'm a father, and I deal with kids who are younger than me, and you know, I got a lot of god kids or whatever, and we have these conversations. Sometimes I'm talking to kids like, you know, y'all don't really know how y'all parents came up, because for the most part, most of the people I know in my age group that are parents, married couples, single couples who are parents, their kids have better resources than they ever had. But the kids believe that if they were in their parents' situation, like their situation is the equivalent to their parents' situation. They believe that the suburbs in 2010s is just as is on the same par with being in the hood in the 80s and 90s. And it's like, no, it's not. It's absolutely not. You know, and you know, from time to time, I mean, I remember having to take my son. He was feeling himself, and I said, I'm gonna take you somewhere. So I took him out to a neighborhood. We was hanging out with people, and he went from the boisterous, I'm okay, Dad, I do whatever I want. Yeah, it's rough out here. It's hard out here for a little pimp. And then I took him to a spot that's a little rough. Daddy, I'm scared. Look at how this place looks. I'm like, shit, this is better than where I grew up. Are you serious? Can we go home? No, we're gonna go play. I don't know if I want to play with these kids. They look rough. Like, come on, man. You know, so it's interesting, you know, because people don't want to admit that, you know, you got to be in competition with your bloodline because you want the next generation to have better opportunities. The problem with that ultimately is it seems like the harder, you know, it's a make or break situation. When you come from a harsh environment, you might be a complete success because you want to work your way out of that. You might be a complete failure because it beats you in a submission. And same thing when you put your kids in a better situation. They might be a complete success because they were able to get better resources and have better opportunities, and they took advantage of them. Or they might be a complete failure because with all the resources, they just did absolutely nothing and blew it. You know, so I hope y'all, you know, get this conversation, and we out, man. Have a good one.